So it is Christmas week, and each year on Christmas, we here at the Daly Dose have a few requests for dear old St. Nicholas. But we go a little beyond like wishing for the Cabbage Patch doll or the Tickled Me Elmo or even the latest video game system. Because every year here at the Daly Dose, we ask Santa to fix some things in sports. And I realize some of the things we're going to ask for might be really, really difficult to fix. You might even say that they are impossible. I say that if a guy can deliver presents to over 100 billion households in one night, I'm assuming he can go ahead and fix a few minor details in the world of sports. So right now, we are going to be reading our Daly Dose 2021 letter to Santa Claus. Let's go ahead and get to the reading here. Let's see. Dear Santa Claus, hope you're doing well. Give my best to the missus. Hope Rudolph and the crew are all taking care of themselves. I have been an incredibly good boy this year. Blah, 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 blah. I'm actually still waiting for a few items from the last few years' lists. I mean, can you fix boxing or a few other things that I've asked for the last few years? So on and so forth. Let's go ahead and get to the good stuff that we have on our list this week. Are you ready? Okay. Santa, just a couple of weeks ago, we here in Denver lost a really, really good guy in former Denver Broncos wide receiver Demaryius Thomas. I'm not going to ask you to bring him back or anything like that. Don't worry about that. I am positive that kind of thing is way above your pay grade, so don't worry about that. But last Sunday, the Denver Broncos hosted the Detroit Lions, and before the game, they actually asked for a moment of silence to honor DT here in Denver at Mile High Stadium. Santa, people in this era are simply incapable of shutting up for like 60 seconds. There were people during the moment of silence hooting and hollering like a bunch of idiots. I don't know if it is the fact that we feel the need to share our every single whim on social media or what it is, but I see this kind of stuff all the time. I see it at high school games when they're playing like the national anthem, or they have a moment of silence for like a lost teacher or a lost student. I see it at college games when they do the same thing there. Our society is just so arrogant. They can't even be asked to be quiet for a few seconds. Can you just do this for me, Santa? Can you at least put these morons on the naughty list? Because they're really, really stupid and really, really obnoxious. I can't stand them anymore. Now, Santa, I realize that the NFL season is in the final stretch, but can you somehow convince those morons over at ESPN to put Peyton and Eli Manning, to put that broadcast on every single week for the rest of the season? Can you also maybe convince them to have that broadcast into the playoffs? Because I'm telling you right now, I'd rather watch that than I would the regular Monday night crew. I'd rather watch that than most of the Sunday really, really good crews or the Sunday night crew. Here's the thing about Peyton and Eli. I learn stuff every single week when they're on. You know, Peyton Manning might be the biggest football nerd in the history of ever. But I'll say this, he teaches me things about football. He tells us what the quarterback is looking at. He tells us what the defense is thinking. He tells us why a play is changed and what were the players and coaches thinking when they changed it. I'd really like to continue that. Can we keep this going? Also, I've learned that Eli Manning, he's really sneaky funny. And also, he really enjoys talking crap to Peyton. And they have some really, really good guests. Can we just go ahead and make this a full-time thing, Santa? I don't know what kind of pull you have at ESPN, if any, because I know that's kind of a mess in and of itself. But whatever leaning you can do on them to make this happen, let's go ahead and do that. Okay, Santa, I've got a big one here. It's a really big one, and it's going to be a lot to ask. I admit that up front, because I realize you are up at the North Pole. Your workshop probably hasn't been taken over by COVID insanity. But down here in the rest of the planet, people have full-on lost their minds. Santa, I want you to think about this for a second. We have some people saying that everyone must be vaccinated from newborns on up. Seems a little crazy to me. We have other people saying no one should ever be vaccinated, no matter what, because what? The government is like trying to put a chip in all of us or some bizarre thing. What's crazy is a lot of these people that have split and gone their two different ways, they just changed their mind to the exact opposite opinion just at the last election in November. Like literally one day in November, they had one opinion. The next day, depending on how the election went, they flipped and did a 180. Wait, Santa, it gets way, way crazier. We have some people who say that showing your identification in order to vote for the leader of the free world is a racist demand. Yet those same people want us to show our vaccine card if you need to, like, buy food. Santa, we have lost our collective minds down here. And look, I realize you probably can't get to all of it. I understand that. And I can't even really blame you. We have to fix some of these things for ourselves. It's just way too much. But can you at least help us out a little bit in the sports department? See, most of our sports leagues have requested that you get the vaccine. I mean, personally, I don't have a problem with that. Employers ask their employees to do stuff like this all the time. I mean, Colin Kaepernick might not want to, but he might have to stand for the national anthem because his employer might ask him to do so. I mean, you might have to attend, I don't know, a sales meeting that you don't want to go to, but it's part of the job. Some of us have to get vaccinated for their jobs. I don't know what you ask of the elves, but I'm assuming it might be a little bit different than what other people ask of their employees. And you won't go to jail if you won't do it, but you could get fired. So sometimes you have to fall in line with what your employer asks of you. Now, between the NFL, Major League Baseball, the National Basketball Association, and the National Hockey League, not to mention most major college sports, especially football and basketball, the vaccine rates are very, very high, like 95% and up. Some leagues even claim they're like above 99%. Now, to be fair, this vaccine isn't maybe a vaccine like we have sometimes thought of it. This vaccine doesn't mean that once you get it, you'll never get COVID. It's more like a therapeutic that once you get it, your symptoms will be significantly less. Okay, I understand that. So please tell me why, if these players in all these sports leagues do have the vaccine, and we know a really, really high rate of them do, and they have no symptoms whatsoever, why do they need to be tested like every few hours? And why do we completely lose our minds if some of them test positive? Who cares? You're vaxxed. You're not sick. Go play. And if you're worried about, well, they can't play because then what about the older coaches? Or what about the older trainers? Or what about the cheerleaders? Or what about the fans? Or what about the referees around the league? They could get sick. Okay, then put those people in a hazmat suit because I don't care. I tune in to see the players play. I don't tune in for the rest of that stuff anyways. Here's the thing. We had better start learning to treat this virus more like the flu because it's not going away. So if that's the case, we need to learn to live with it. I mean, we don't test like this for the flu every year, and it comes back every single year. There are very, very different variants every single year. And in fact, I know what a lot of people say. They'll say, well, yeah, but the flu doesn't kill people like this does. Well, statistically, the flu is more dangerous to young, healthy people than COVID is. But here's the thing I want you to ask yourself. If the Cleveland Browns said they weren't going to play this last week because they had the flu, we'd go, oh, brother, suck it up. Get out there. It's the flu. We've all had the flu. Power through it. Meanwhile, we are telling players who have no symptoms whatsoever, are at zero risk whatsoever, you can't play because you've tested positive. And sometimes I don't even know how accurate these tests even are. So Santa, here's what I'm asking for actually here on my list. Can you please convince the people in power at these leagues to actually go ahead and reward the people who did get vaccinated, like they asked them to, by not making them submit to testing every few minutes? If they're asymptomatic, who cares? You're protected. Who cares? Let's move forward and let these players play. We don't need delays. We don't need postponements. We don't need protocols and rescheduling. If you have the vaccine, You don't need to be getting tested constantly all the time, especially when you have 0 symptoms. Santa, that's not all. Because speaking of rescheduling, we could be in for some big, big trouble in the National Football League. And I mean big trouble. Because this year, Super Bowl 56 is scheduled for Sunday, February 13th at SoFi Stadium in Inglewood, California. But again, based on those numbers spiking, which they're probably going to do every single year in the winter months. I mean, we have flu spikes, so we're probably going to have COVID spikes too. Well, people are going to start freaking out again this year, again. Even if the different variants get progressively less dangerous, which is typically what viruses actually do. Well, this year we're already seeing things in California start to go bad, real bad. They're already talking about lockdowns. They're talking about making kids stay home from school again, wearing masks everywhere, even outside. It won't surprise me one bit if California starts pulling down the outside basketball hoops and filling in those skate parks with sand again, because that's just kind of how California rolls. Well, how's that going to go for the Super Bowl? Are they going to ban fans coming into the game again? Because I can totally see that happening really, really easy. Santa, here's my request. And again, it won't be easy. Can you move the Super Bowl? And I'll be honest, I don't care where. You can move it anywhere that isn't losing their collective mind. But if you leave it in California, I fear we're going to have repercussions. And they could be really, really bad. I don't feel like having empty stands for the Super Bowl again. Santa, can you please just pull the Super Bowl out of that state and let's get it to a better place, because we know how they handled the pandemic last time. And it wasn't good. Okay, YouTube, be sure that you go out and you check out the rest of the podcast this week, because this week on The Dose, we actually have a few more things that we're going to be asking Santa for. We do have a few sports news stories to talk, and we have a Christmas-flavored Daily Dose Top 5 for you. If you're trying to knock out those last-minute gifts for sports fans, we have a few things you need to make sure that you avoid this year. You're not going to want to go anywhere near them. So be sure you go over and you check out the rest of the podcast. I will leave a link for it here in the comments on YouTube for you. Hope you all are doing well. I will see you all next Wednesday. Have a great week and have a very safe and a very Merry Christmas.